A special report now on CBS 2, KCAL 9, and streaming on CBS in Los Angeles. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti providing an update on LA's efforts to keep the public safe amid violent protests. Let's listen in.
To create a better city and a better nation for everyone. Our conscience demands that we translate our pain into passionate calls for justice. That we speak the truth and act to end the racism that took the life of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and too many others. Not just in past history books, but today, where we live in America, to acknowledge the faults that we all carry collectively in the culture and the institutions that surround us. We feel a righteous rage, and we have to express it. But the rage must not consume us. It must not be turned back on us. We know that it is only with peace that progress can follow. We must not allow any who feast off of chaos, who hunger for division, who want to replace peaceful protest with images of a nation coming apart. We must not let them win. Let's be clear. Black Lives Matter and allies from across this city and region organized powerful protests in a beautiful park yesterday. And no one should point a finger in the direction of people who are exercising their First Amendment rights at a moment when we need our voices more than ever. As long as I'm mayor, myself, these chiefs, our entire city leadership is committed to protecting those rights. Those rights are most important in bad moments, not just good ones, when we must give voice to outrage, not just to moments of happiness. And we are committed to the peaceful and safe expression of those rights. And we must continue to do, even in these most difficult days, to support peaceful protest and steps that our nation faces in the days ahead to go beyond protest towards progress. But as the sun set in our beautiful city last night, we saw some of the ugliest images in a generation. Acts on our streets that were not demonstrations for justice, destruction and looting that came from a small group of individuals, but they have not just caused chaos and damage. They are hijacking a moment and a movement and changing the conversation. We have police officers who worked all night last night and the night before, who are away from their families, protecting people and businesses they don't know the names of. They put their lives on the line. Some of them have been injured. This isn't new to them, though. Our guardians put themselves out there bravely every single day to save a woman trapped in domestic violence, a teenager who's been trafficked into sex trade, somebody who's been a victim of sexual violence in our city, processing, being the detectives, making sure that justice is served in our city every single day. They mentor young people. They reflect the demographics of our city. And no, none of us are perfect, we're human beings. But they are trained and continuously trained to make sure that we have a model that is about de-escalating, about looking at our own bias, about partnerships for peace with people that didn't exist in this city decades ago. We need to contain that fact. But in the same city, we need to contain another fact that I don't believe is a contradiction. We have young people in our city who feel that they don't get a fair start in life, that the system is racist and rigged against them, that whether it's their schools, whether it's their family income, whether it's their health, that they start many yards behind the starting line, and that racism and rigged feeling infects also our criminal justice system in its culture and its practice. But for a moment, even those two groups on both sides of the line found common ground. It looks like this. Out there right now, we've got everyone from everyday citizens who are protesting to business owners to good cops and firefighters upset and grieving about the injustice we all saw as Americans first. We saw it in Minneapolis, and we've seen it too often. This is a moment to find and to hold that common ground, and I am committed to doing that. But against that shared pain, and behind badges, in our homes and in our streets, we all clearly saw something that had nothing to do with justice. We saw people in our city smashing windows, stealing, and beating. We are bigger than that, and I know we are better than that. The us peacefully speaking out sometimes doesn't have as loud a voice as the images that make the news. A small number of people who seek to exploit our pain in order to commit crime. And as I see these criminal acts take hold and take attention away from the real challenge behind us, I think about the suffering already in our city, the businesses that we're hoping to reopen that have been so badly beaten down by COVID-19, businesses that had a fighting chance and could have welcomed customers back this weekend but are now closed, damaged, and looted. But just as we have during this COVID-19 crisis, we will support those small businesses. My promise to them is that you are the bedrock of our economy, and I'm committed to cleaning up our streets as we've been doing each day, to giving assistance to the small businesses who feel as shattered as their window fronts, to the employees who need a paycheck and now wonder if that is gone, and those who need to lead our recovery economically from this pandemic. It breaks my heart, too, to think about the Angelenos protesting in peace and fighting for justice, how this violence and looting clouds that picture. Those who celebrate the pictures are the ones who seek to divide us, to make sure we can't find common ground. I think about parents in different neighborhoods worried about whether their children can play outside or whether they can take a walk around the block. And it is my core responsibility to make sure I do everything in my power to keep our streets clean and just, to make sure that we have our communities safe and fair. It's not an either-or. And violence is never the answer to violence, even if it's thousands of miles away. If we were watching closely yesterday, we saw that Angeleno spirit in action in Pan Pacific Park, people demonstrating with nonviolence and strength. We saw images of officers on the line exercising restraint we expect of them. But we also saw people burning vehicles, jumping on buses. We saw tactics that all of us need to make sure restore the peace and find the common ground. As I've said, we know that there are those among the peaceful demonstrators who are not interested in peace. They're interested in chaos, not calm, destruction, not justice. And we know that there are always, in any system, accountability that whether you're an officer with a badge or an everyday citizen, that you need to be held accountable to. And it's my promise that that will always be our city. So we have to tap now into every resource that is available to protect our city. That is the job at hand today. And I want to give you a few updates on some of our steps and decisions in the past 24 hours to do just that. When times demand it, strong steps are required to bring peace back to our city, which is why I enacted, as heavy a decision as it was, a citywide curfew. I gained some strength from mayors across the city who I talked to, from Atlanta to Seattle, from Denver to Cincinnati, in Louisville, and of course Minneapolis, who said, when the innocent start to be the victims, when lives begin to be lost, our first responsibility always is, so that we can find progress and justice, to restore calm and peace to our streets. The goal here is to keep all Angelenos safe, and please help do that. We all have to own that ourselves, to give law enforcement and firefighters the space they need to keep the peace. And so we will keep this curfew in place this evening, the same hours from 8 p.m. and lasting through 5:30, covering every part of Los Angeles. But on top of that, wherever emergencies arise, we ask our partners across the state for assistance. We provide aid to each other, just as we send firefighters for fires over our borders. Those same cities and places send us help, including from the state. And in that spirit, we received and thank the additional support that came from law enforcement agencies elsewhere in the state: Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Ventura, and Kings counties. And in the early evening last night, I spoke with Governor Gavin Newsom to provide him with an update on what was happening here in Los Angeles. I described the situation. I explained how it had become clear that a small group had turned a nonviolent gathering into acts of violence and criminal acts against our local businesses. He offered to declare a state of emergency and send in and supplement National Guardsmen and women, everyday citizens who put on a uniform that could come here to help us. And I said yes. We've declared states of emergency for fires and earthquakes. We're in one now for COVID-19. My heart breaks that we had to declare one because some people, some of them from outside of our communities, started fires and threw rocks and other dangerous items. People who drove from across town in caravans, in cars to jump out, to loot, get back in the car, and do it again. That's the worst of us, and that's clearly an emergency. After this declaration, my office coordinated with the state's Office of Emergency Services on our deployment of our 500 National Guardsmen and women, and another 500 that have headed here, I know, to back up the Sheriff's Department. All of these steps are not to instill fear. They're not to exact punishment on anyone. The chief can speak more to the role that they will play. They will not be deployed in South Bureau. They will be in places where we are sensitive to what the community feel was from 1992. And they will do their job to protect those places that still aren't secured because of the looting that has existed here downtown and elsewhere in our city. And I also want to be very, very clear that ICE is no part of this. There's rumors out there. They are not part of these efforts. This is not some excuse to conduct immigration raids. These are folks that are under the command of our Governor Gavin Newsom, not our US military. These actions are intended to protect our neighbors, our local businesses, our houses of worship, our streets, our neighborhoods, to help back up our peace officers and to help them deal with the immediate issues at hand and to try to respond to calls and perform their normal duties, because crime doesn't stop just because this is going on. In a similar vein, I recognize that there was some concern about why the COVID-19 sites were closed at about 3 p.m., 2 hours earlier than they usually do yesterday. Sunday's always our day off. There would have not been any tests today, no matter what. But that wasn't a decision where we just closed them from the government, and some have even said to punish people. Hardly. These are volunteers, and volunteers themselves said that they didn't feel safe and they wanted to leave, and that made that we had to shut them down a couple of hours early. As you know, Los Angeles was the first major city to not only give free testing, but free testing to everyone in every community, whether they had symptoms or not. And our testing operation is very heroically led by our fire chief, Ralph Terrazas, whose men and women have just done an extraordinary job side by side with those women. Because the volunteers who staff these centers still do not feel safe coming back to them, some of them will remain closed tomorrow. But I will have my staff and my team, together with our fire department, make sure that we keep our largest one open at Dodger Stadium. Our mega testing site with the capacity to do 6,000 tests will be open tomorrow, as well as our walk-up location in South Los Angeles, which is critically important, at the Kedron Community Health Center. And everyone with an appointment for tomorrow can still be accommodated right now. New appointments may be pushed to Tuesday or Wednesday, but keep testing yourself. And as I've always said each night, you know probably the website as well as me. It's coronavirus.lacity.org/testing to schedule. And I encourage all residents to get tested. I've talked about how COVID-19 feeds off of the racism that we see. I'm proud that since we saw the numbers of how African Americans in Los Angeles were disproportionately dying above the numbers in the population, we've cut that disparity in half, and we're not going to rest until we cut it in half again. At the request of LAPD, we also had to make a tough choice yesterday to shut down service on our Dash buses and to deploy Los Angeles Department of Transportation teams to the Fairfax district to impound burned out cars and help with immediate response. Dash service has been restored downtown, and all Dash routes will be restored in the next hour. So if you need those buses, they are here to serve you. And in consultation with Metro Board Chair Mayor James Butts from the mayor of Inglewood and my friend, Metro suspended all transit service at 8 p.m. last night. It was not an easy decision given the challenge of balancing safety and maintaining that lifeline for so many people. Metro suspended its service out of utmost concern for the public and its employees and the damage that they saw to their bus yesterday. And I join Metro in apologizing to riders who were stranded last night. Metro will reimburse people for verified trip costs. You can call 323-GO-METRO or email customerrelations@metro.net for more information. And I want to note that regular Sunday service resumed this morning at 5:30. Metrolink and Amtrak services to Union Station continued throughout the night. And finally, in response to events on Friday and last night, our street services and sanitation crews have been deployed with preparation and cleanup related to these protests, to clean up our city, to make sure that we can restore this city of angels. So far, over the last 3 days, more than 300 members of the city workforce have spread out primarily downtown and mid-city to clear debris, to clean up from fires, remove bulky items from our roads and sidewalks. We've mobilized street sweepers, sanitation trucks, graffiti abatement teams, and our departments will never stop working for you, even in the toughest of times. No matter what happens, core city services continue. Your right to protest is a sacred American right. Our humanity demands that we protect the space to feel tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. And our spirit will need even more space for it to heal our hearts and our streets. Today is a new day, and we're looking at it through the eyes, I hope, of young people. They saw parts of their city on fire. They heard the helicopters and sirens outside their bedroom windows. Some of them were on the front lines of the demonstration crying out for justice. Others were probably just at home crying and scared. That healing that we can find, that common ground that we can model, the security that we must maintain for them is how they will walk into their future, in peace and with love, and with the strength to build the bridges that our country needs them to construct. These bridges torn down by discrimination, or maybe never built because of the evils that have been with us since this country's founding. Because of them, hate and violence have no place in our destiny, no place in our future, and we will not stand for either of them here in Los Angeles. Because of their passion and their persistence, we can learn the lessons of our own city's history and lead in this ongoing struggle. I hope maybe later today and in coming days to talk about how we can take those next steps forward. That gets lost in the fog of these moments, and new generations that haven't recognized what activists have achieved in changing the way we look at public safety, the investments we make in higher wages and more housing, the way we take human services as importantly as we take public safety, and how we can continue to make those investments together and listen to the demands when people say it's not just about a criminal justice system, it's about equality in this country and how we find it together. We can do this only when we reclaim the safety and peace of our streets. That is job one, so that we can get back to the more important job of building a free, fair, safe, and just city and country for all of us. Strength and love, Los Angeles. And with that, let me turn it over to our Chief of Police, Mike Moore.